All righty. Good morning. This is Ron. Uh, Sunday morning, a little after 11. We were have been talking the last couple of days about current events and looking at spiritual matters as to what's being exposed right now and where we are. And of course, the political arena is hot and heavy. Uh, so we've used that as a launching place to kind of talk about some other things uh, and comparing where we are. And on yesterday, Barbara opened us up by just reminding us of some of the things that we've discussed and over the years and the accuracy of them and where we are now. And just as a reminder to stay the course, that we are heading in the right direction. Stay the course and keep doing what we're doing. And so it addressed the spiritual matter. It addressed fear. It saw the unity and the meditations and everything we've done, even as far back as years and years ago, not knowing what some of the things we are saying, what that was going to lead to. So that led to a discussion yesterday. But are there any other questions or comments about any of that or anything else that may have crossed your mind? Anyone? Okay. Um, I was looking at looking at something. Seem to get a lot of things cross my phone now or my news feeds that I have. But I was looking at something that spoke to me about the African and uh, sort of they're finding proof that the African has traveled before any of the other continents were populated. The African had traveled pretty much the whole world. And I looked at that and it even made me wonder if and what made the earth divide the land. Was the land at one time whole? And if the African has put his consciousness by walking the land, so to speak, when I'm talking spiritually here, uh, does that mean that the whole earth is a Babylon? Uh, and if that's so, how does that affect what we're seeing now? I guess that's my question to everybody. Does that make sense? Do you need me to repeat it?
Go ahead, Nick.
Good morning. I think
Sir?
that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think whenever you're talking about uh, land, I think as you pointed out, in the sort of spiritual sense, you're talking about a nation, which is more similar to like a consciousness that is shared amongst a group of people, regardless of wherever they are. And I think the sort of original consciousness of human beings arose within a Kabbalah or Africa. And I believe the nature of that consciousness could have spread across all the other lands. Uh, but I think it just means that the separation was more so a separation in the nature of the mindset or the consciousness of the people as people began to spread out and change the way they thought, change the way they interacted with each other. But ultimately, all the sort of land of the earth is part of the same body. So if the nature of the consciousness across the earth is similar, then I think it has the opportunity to be one land and to be the consciousness that was characteristic of the African in the spiritual and metaphysical sense of all the land being one, or the humanity being of a similar or one unified mindset or consciousness. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Nick. Anyone else want to add to that, or you have any questions about it?
Good morning, this is Barbara. Can the basic essence of someone or something change? If we're all, I'm building on what you and Nick just said. If the essence of us all originated from the same womb, if we all originated, so that consciousness is there, and it's almost like, you know, I think I shared with you one time when my sister and I were in a restaurant, and we just felt this dis-ease of three women who were sitting at a table, and we felt that. And I asked, "Did you feel that?" The essence. That doesn't mean they weren't divinity. That just means that they had made or allowed or something had attached to them that was unripe. And so I agree with Nick. We, you know, a lot of who we think we become is based on what we think and what we believe and what we say. And the further we are from our basic essence, our origin of the Kabbalah, just like we were. I mean, we were in the church and we thought that's the truth, everything's the truth, and nobody better say anything against the church. But the more you know about you and yourself, the more you are capable of recovering, if you will. And when I say recover, I mean unburying, whatever the more you're able to recover that the essence of a Kabbalah, the consciousness that you are. So I think that everybody worldwide, that the consciousness is in the macro. It's not the consciousness that's hidden. It's us who are hidden behind our barriers and our ego and things like that. Thank you.
Yes.
I agree with what's being said. However, I would like to add something to it. The landmass, as Nick stated at the onset, the earth speaks to consciousness. And when the landmass was separated, it was separated by water. And I do believe that there was a spiritual message. And the spiritual message was speaking to the fragmentation of earth consciousness. And the fragmented earth consciousness was shown to us by virtue of the landmass being separated. And this fragmented consciousness is represented by the differences, not only in culture, but also differences in mindsets, thought patterns, and the reality of all humanity having come from the womb of a Kabbalah also speaks to a reality of a consciousness that is available to everyone who came from that womb. However, at the same time, because of free will, or because of the ability that we have to make choices, there were choices made to be distant from the essence of a Kabbalah, because the people in the Kabbalah were different in terms of how they looked. And if you think about how Native Americans got here, according to archaeologists and geologists, they crossed the Bering Strait coming from Asia and entered through the northern portions of North America and migrated down to what we call now the United States and southern Canada, as well as into South America. So when we talk about the state of Europeans, we see that they are differentiated from all the people of the earth based upon what they themselves pointed out, and that is external color tones. And because of that, that differentiation not only was made, but established in the early 1700s, 1400s rather, was this racism. And it was based upon a distinctive distance from a Kabbalah in terms of thoughts. And I do believe that the physical manifestation of this distancing themselves from a Kabbalah was represented also by an external manifestation. And the external manifestation is reflective in people of color versus those who determine themselves not to be people of color. And I do not believe it was done for malicious reasons. I believe that it ended up being malicious, but I don't believe that was the onset. I believe the maliciousness came from the choices that were made. However, I do believe that the reason it was done from the beginning is because there had to be an establishment of deity in the earth. And in order for deity to be established in the earth, it had to create in this image and likeness. And if it had not been for this maliciousness in the mindset of the European, there would not be an image and likeness to be created in the form of Al-Kabbalah. And the image and likeness of which I speak is not the manifested physical representation of physical, what we see physically in terms of skin tones. It is more in a mindset. And the mindset of a Kabbalah is one of love, kindness, righteousness, peace, etc. And the mindset of Europe was totally different than that. Matter of fact, it was antithetical to that. And now where we are is in the process of bringing into existence the creation of this, the mindset of a Kabbalah on a global basis for the express purpose of not only saving the earth from destruction, but also for the purpose of bringing a strong sense of deification into the earth, meaning that the representation of our Creator being manifested in this physical earth. And the only way that could be done is by recognizing that the deity from which everything emanated, all humans emanated in this earth, is one of femininity, a womb. And when we look at the historical essence of the European mindset, it has never had a matriarchal society. It has always been patriarchal, male-dominated. Might makes right that kind of attitude, as opposed to that of a Kabbalah being based upon quote unquote education, meaning that helping people to understand who they are in relationship to the creator of everything that is. And I do believe that right now we are in the midst of this being seen in a manner that has not been seen or experienced since the period that invaded the earth of masculine domination. To carry it a step further, I do believe that this masculine domination, which is foreign to a Kabbalah, the principles of a Kabbalah, this masculine domination was planted, the seed was planted, not sown, but planted in the consciousness of the earth in such a way that it's difficult to dig up. And it was planted by the writing of the Bible. The Bible is the primary culprit that planted male domination in the consciousness of the earth. And now we are tasked with uprooting this and embracing the reality of what was meant from the beginning. And this seed of male domination that was planted in the earth, we see it first. And when we look in the Bible, we see it right there in the creation. It's in the Garden of Eden that we see male domination being expressed first. And from that, being a seed that has taken root in earth consciousness in a manner that was never intended from the beginning. I feel like I'm probably talking in circles. I hope I'm not. Questions or comments, please. Does that make sense, guys? Can you see that? Can't hear you, Audrey.
Yes, I can see that.
Thank you, Audrey. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
While you were talking, I was sitting here thinking that you didn't mention religion, but you did at the end. But it's interesting that the whole European mindset has always been a mindset of war, so to speak. I mean, from the time of the Romans all the way up through the Greeks, the Romans, it was always conquering and pillage. And so that mindset of male domination just played right into the establishment of religion. And then also we remember the doctrine of discovery, where the church gave them the right to go out and steal and pillage and murder and all those things. I just remember we were watching this movie the other night called The Four Feathers. If I don't know if y'all have heard of that before, but it was about this British man who was in the army, and the British were part of their empire was Sudan, and the Sudanese had risen up against the British, so they were sending their soldiers out there to put down the revolution. And this particular man didn't want to go. He didn't want to be a part of all the fighting and whatever. And then his friends called him a coward. But when they were getting ready to go, they had the priest come in and sort of bless them and tell them, you are Christians, God is on your side. you have the right to go out there and slaughter these heathens. So that really struck me, because all that mindset is part of the European mindset. They feel they have the right to do whatever, even if it means stealing, killing, pillaging, raping, whatever. They feel they have the God-given right. And I mean, I don't know if I can go with a God like that. Anyway, that's my own personal opinion, that in part. Thanks.
That's a real opinion. I struggle with how we were able to be blinded to that for so long. But then I thought about it's just like everything else. When the time came for change to take place, that is when the Creator brought all of us together. I look at how this world has continued in cycles. If you think about the cyclical nature of events in the earth, you will find that looking at it historically, the cycle did not start until Ptolemy sat on that throne in Kemet. Prior to that, everything on the earth was even keeled and balanced, and wars, as we are talking about, were unknown. I remember being in college and reading a story about a village in Africa when they had enmity against each other. One was chosen to fight, and the one who lost the fight, the whole tribe, the whole unit lost the fight, and they came under the authority of the village who won, but it was only one man fighting each other as opposed to a whole group of people killing each other. That stuck with me since then, and I see now what that the cycle that has continued has been one of war, one of murder, one, as Audrey delineated all the things that has taken place. However, I would like for us also to remember that in the sacred writings of Kemet, there were no mentions of murder or wars as is mentioned in the Bible. The Bible is replete with violence, especially in the Old Testament. It's all about killing people, wiping out people, killing the children, killing cats, dogs, the ants, the mice, everything, just killing everything in the village. And that type of attitude is a European attitude. There's never been an African attitude. And there exists within me now a struggle with embracing that. And I'm beginning to be shown how difficult, how different rather, it is in the mindset of the African, especially when it comes to this whole thing about Genesis. I don't see Genesis anymore as a creation story that is acceptable in terms of spirituality. I see Genesis as a story about the beginnings of European domination in the earth. Genesis tells me now that this is the beginning of males creating a patriarchal society based upon violence, based upon brutality, based upon brute strength, as opposed to a society that is based upon spirituality, that benefits the whole of humanity without regard to the ethnicity of humanity itself. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that, as we've said before, the reason it took 1,000 years to write the Bible during the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages is because it took them that long to manipulate what had been written in the sacred writings of Kemet that was housed in the libraries there in Kemet. And in doing so, Genesis was written totally different than what it should have been. The whole story of Adam and Eve has very little to do with the creation of a man and a woman, but everything to do to establish a foundation of male domination, which is totally diametrically opposed to the creation story that came out of Kemet. Excuse me. I'm done unless there are questions or comments.
Well, that's kind of where I was going. The first thing I said, I think a lot of this stuff it's kind of linked together. What I was hoping, the relationship in the Kemet creation story between Osiris and Iris, right? And compare that, just bring us up to speed. The era, those two stories and how they differ. Cause I think I see something here. That's been evident to us all along. It's been out there. We just hadn't seen it.
I want to ask you to do something. If you have a pen, paper, get it in hand, please, because if you have questions, I want you to jot them down because I don't want you to forget what you want to ask questions about. When we look at the creation story in terms of Adam and Eve, and when we compare it to Osiris and Isis, we can see the origin of Adam and Eve in that. When Osiris and Isis were brought into existence by Amun-Ra, which is equivalent to our Creator, bringing into existence Adam and Eve. Osiris and Isis were the male and female energies in the earth that was to bring into existence offsprings that would be manifested in human form. Isis, it is said that Osiris, I think it was a set that cut up the body of Osiris. And I'll explain all of this as we go along, okay? And Isis sought together the different parts of the body in order to put Osiris back together. And every piece of the body was found with the exception of the penis. And Isis was impregnated without the penis being there. And that life that came from Isis was that of Harut, which was the son of Isis and Osiris. That story to me speaks to the reality of how humanity was brought into the earth. Life coming from the womb of femininity without having the penis, the masculinity to have a part in that light, the giving of life, with an understanding that all life came from that womb without the insertion of a penis. In the story of Adam and Eve, it took the offshoot from that. They, during the Dark Ages, took that story and made a story of Adam and Eve. And in doing so, what they did was reduce the role of Isis, or the role of the female, by placing the masculine Adam in charge of and over and putting it in a domineering position by virtue of the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, what happened? When the male supposedly fell, then the male said, "Is that woman you gave me?" And in doing so, what happened? The female has been blamed for everything that's wrong in the earth ever since. And the male has always been the dominant force in the earth. And this is the European version of the creation story. However, in the version of Kabbalah, the creation story speaks to the idea that all life into this earth came into existence from the womb of the feminine inhabitants of Kabbalah, and without the insertion of a male penis. So what is that saying to us? That is saying to us that has been actually proven through anthropology, which also simply supplemented a spiritual truth, and that is that all life came into existence from the womb of an African woman, which means that all life came into existence from the womb of a Kabbalah, and that existence, human existence, was altered by the way that he came into the earth. And the alteration of it was done by Europeans, by European men who transformed a matriarchal society into a patriarchal society, who transformed a deity of femininity into a deity of masculinity. And as a result of that, the chaos that we are experiencing now has its origin in that. And the chaos that was pursuant to that story has put us in a state of flux and destruction from that point forward. If we go back to the advent of the creation based upon Osiris and Isis, we don't see chaos. What we see is a smooth transition from understanding the spiritual essence of humanity in the earth and understanding the role of humanity in the earth being created in the image of its creator for the express purpose of being a creator in this physical realm, bringing into existence not only physical bodies, but also bringing it to existence in this earth realm, the same consciousness that exists in the spiritual realm, which is a consciousness that existed from the beginning, a consciousness or a state of awareness that life emanates from the womb, and that the express purpose of this physical manifestation is for there to be a spiritual truth in this manifested world that existed from the beginning. And that spiritual truth not only was tainted, but on the brink of destruction brought about by virtue of transforming the story of Isis and Osiris into the story of Adam and Eve, which is a story of European domination. And if you look at the period of the story of Isis and Osiris, if you follow that, you begin to see a world created, a order being brought into existence in the world. If you look at the story from Adam and Eve, you see a world of chaos emanating from that union. Because from Adam and Eve, what you began to see is a war after war destroying different sects of people in the earth. Of course, all of this is spiritual. However, it has been written in story form, taken as literal by Europeans as they wrote it. But all of it is replete with violence, wherein the story that has existed for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years prior to this advent of Christianity never had any references to these types of violent experiences in the earth. The earth was never brought to a brink of destruction until the European mindset dominated the earth. And that started with the story of Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve. And we are now at a place in history, a place in this place of in this space of spirituality, where we are correcting this story that has been flooding the minds of humanity in the earth ever since the Dark Ages and the printing of the Ginsburg Bible in the 1400s. I'm hoping that's not confusing. Questions or comments, anything you want to add to that, please do it. And Ron, I hope that it was clear.
Yes, sir, it was to me. Anyone else?
I have a question.
But, just before your question, Eva. Just before your question.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense to the rest of you guys? Ron said it's clear to him. Does it make sense to the rest of you guys?
Yes.
Is it clear to you?
I'm still
Okay.
wrapping my mind on what, but hopefully it'll clear up.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, the story's clear, but I'm still processing.
Okay. Thank you. Evelyn?
Yeah, with the rest of them, yeah, it's a lot, and we all are processing, I believe. But anyway, you mentioned the word laboratory on yesterday, and what you're talking about this morning about Isis and Haru and yeah, those concepts. Did all this what you're talking about, was this done in a laboratory? And my question to you is, if you don't mind, define that laboratory that you talked about yesterday. Do you remember that?
When I talk about a laboratory, I'm not talking about a physical lab. I'm just talking about
Right.
an experience in this earth realm. That's
So
all I'm talking.
Is that the same thing
Yes.
that you're talking about this morning?
Yes.
About Isis, Osiris. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Processing. I'm processing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's a lot because I think what throws us the most is not so much the story as if we're not familiar with the names. And if we are familiar with the names, then what we have been inundated with all our life is that these are pagan gods when they are not. They are a story of masculine and feminine energies that brought into existence everything that we are able to see manifested with our eyes. And I think that is part of the dilemma when it comes to embracing / understanding it. I'm done.
There have been there have been species of animals, and we've talked about this before, that have changed. Insects do it all the time when necessary, to feminine or whatever, femininity or whatever is needed to prolong the colony or the life thereof. And I'm looking at this now. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night about in Genesis, and spiritually speaking, I think one of the things we're missing, and I'm asking a question, I'm not making a statement, is, and I'm not talking about physical life, that creation and life comes together without the penis. And I'm not trying to be funny here, I'm trying to see this. You mentioned on yesterday, and I'm trying to gather 2 or 3 things, and I apologize for that. We were talking yesterday, and you said something about the womb of the Caucasian woman and the womb of the African, and we had talked in the past. I don't think it's any coincidence that the earth being feminine and the moon being feminine, and what that means to us more than just control. So when I was talking about the being one land mass separated by water, I think all of that has something to do, all of that works together. And I'm just trying to pull all this together. I'm trying to see a more accurate role of the understanding of the creation story than what we've always known it to be. And I think things are playing out right before us, and that has significant meaning, even to the point where we as men on this phone are becoming creative, meaning that we are noticing our wombs, and even, you know, even the women on this farm. I think we're all going through a transformation here, is what I'm saying, as all of this unfolds. So it is a lot. It's a lot of information, and I hope I'm not adding to the confusion. But I just see a lot here that I don't quite get yet. I want you to explain it.
You have about 3 or 4 different things tied up in
Well, just pick one and go with it, please, sir.
it.
Can I respond to some of that?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So I remember yesterday we were talking about the it is femininity that is supposed to perhaps, for lack of a better term, dominate in the earth, in that it is supposed to set and maintain the balance and the harmony. And masculinity is not supposed to do anything unless there's a problem. And in that story of Isis and Osiris is explained the nature of spiritual masculinity and femininity, and the roles that we play in order to bring about the resolution to all conflict that presents itself in the earth. Because in that story, Isis could not find the penis, but she fashioned a new one out of gold and attached it to Osiris. That is the making of the re-emergence of the righteous man. It is the rebalancing and spiritual masculinity being embodied in the earth.
Purity.
Say again.
Purity.
Being embodied in the earth by the consciousness of those who are meant to sort of collectively represent masculinity in earth, i.e. males. When the males collectively deal with their confusion, selfishness, foolishness, etc., that is when the penis, which before was the cause of the problem, turns to gold within the context of the story and becomes the solution to the problem. That is as I said, the reawakening of the righteous masculinity in the earth, which is designed to reconnect us to what we lost. And that is the relationship between masculinity and femininity. It's the sort of femininity stabilizing, harmonizing, and maintaining. Masculinity when recognizing there's a problem, and of course all problems begin within. In resolving that problem allows for the reconnection back to source spirit, the true nature of the self as a conscious being. And it is through the union of, in that story, Isis and Osiris, once the penis is gold, that produces Heru. Because Heru is the hero, the messianic awareness, or the Christ, which is what does the saving. It is the sort of energy of spiritual transformation and evolution back towards the source, out of a state of confusion, chaos, etc. And that is, and Heru is it's probably another incorrect thing to present that as only male, because it is the result of the union of masculine and feminine. It is beyond that sort of polarity. It is the return. It is the prodigal child, returning.
May I ask?
Yes, sir.
The Haru, being fashioned out of a pure seed, speaks to the purity of masculinity, understanding, for lack of a better term, its role, its purpose, and that purpose it also understanding that the reason that there's femininity in this masculine entity is for guidance. It helps to guide masculinity on this journey of its purpose for being in the earth, and it also aids in keeping masculinity focused, as opposed to shifting its focus to selfishness, etc. All those things that you named earlier. Is that what you're saying, or is that a part of it anyway?
Absolutely, because that's the
Well,
femininity shaping the gold penis.
Yes.
That is the influence of femininity correcting the imbalance in masculinity.
That's it. That's yeah.
so Haru then represents balance.
Haru represents the influence of masculinity in sustaining life, because the sun sustains life, and the sun is Haru is the sun, the S-U-N, not the S-O-N, that sustains life. So life is sustained by both masculinity and femininity.
Yeah. I see that the creation story is being rewritten right now, and or being uncovered. What, maybe not rewritten, maybe that's not right. And we're right in the midst of it. That's what I just don't know how to unfold it or to show it, see it. That's why I asked the question. Something's going on, and maybe we'll see this, as we say, in the by and by.
It is the
Yeah.
the correction of the confusion.
Yes.
That was
I want to, when Nick finishes, I want to offer something that may help clear it up. Go ahead, Nick.
yeah, I just want to say real quick, when you in the story of Adam and Eve, when Eve, the femininity is created from a piece of the masculinity, ignoring all the probable confusion that is present in that story, but that is the femininity is a helper to masculinity, in the sense that it is femininity that teaches masculinity how to correct itself. In the sort of confused, selfish interpretation of that, it is femininity that becomes subservient to masculinity. No, femininity is the shaper, the informer of what masculinity is supposed to be in the earth. It is the teacher, and therefore the master, which is not a great word to use, but
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
In addition to what has been said, when we take a real look at the creation story, we see that it uses the masculine as being the provider of a piece of itself for the existence of femininity. Now, in the true story, it is femininity that provides the piece to masculinity that it has lost for it to be brought into a place of purity and righteousness and to be what it was supposed to be. Now, if we also take it a step further and look at what's taking place right now, what we see is a result of all of the interaction that the earth has had with the moon. In recent months and weeks, what have we seen? We have seen more interactions with the moon and the earth than I can remember. The moon being closer to the earth, which means it's larger, the lineup of planets with the moon, the influences of the moon are consistently there and has been for the last 6 or 7 months or more. And it's been in the forefront of our discussions as well as the forefront of the news. Why? The moon has an influence on the cycle of the female, which prepares the body for what? For life. Am I right? Of course I'm right. So it prepares the body, the feminine body, for life. So the moon has been preparing the earth consciousness for life. And the influence that it has been exerting on the consciousness of the earth is seen with the representative of male domination removing itself from this top spot on a quote unquote ticket and it being replaced by femininity, which is the source of life. And what I see taking place is here we are with a new beginning, 44,000 African women coming together on behalf of this feminine energy that's been placed at the quote unquote head of the ticket. And 4 and 4 is 8. So a new beginning of femininity taking place. And following suit is the womb, or entering that gateway is the womb of the Caucasian female, 164,000, which is 11. And entering that gateway that has been prepared by the influence of the moon, which is actually representative of the feminine energy in the universe. That preparation being made so that the womb of the European female will be bringing into life that which is influenced by the African womb. And the life that's being brought into this earth is one of balance and one of a commitment to the whole of humanity, as opposed to one of a commitment to selfish things, or greed, or war, etc. I believe that when the feminine womb, the European feminine womb came together, it was a type of submission to the authority of the African womb that had brought life into the earth from the beginning, a desire to be one with it. And when these two come together, meaning the African femininity and the Caucasian femininity comes together in this quote unquote meeting they're supposed to have, it would be not an interaction, more than that. It would be, what is it? Somebody help me with the word I'm searching for. Inextricably tied together, maybe? Is that a good term? Something that cannot be separated again. So I believe that this energy is going to be so deeply intertwined until it won't be separated again. And what do I mean by that? The way that the femininity has been kept at bay is that the African womb has been subjected to disdain and degradation throughout the centuries. And that has been upheld not only by the, been perpetrated rather, by the masculinity of the European mindset, but also undergirded by that of the European female who follows the footstep of that male, that European male's mindset. Now that has changed, and it has changed because finally the European femininity is hearing something, is beginning to hear that you are more of a slave than I am. You are deeply intertwined in servitude to the extent that you're blind to it. And that now is being, the awakening is taking place. And all that awakening is taking place because of the preparation for life that the influence of the moon has been bringing into existence over actually a short period of time when we talk about our having noticed what's taking place in that regard. So I do expect after this meeting between the two energies of femininity, I do expect us to have an experience far greater than the one that we are experiencing right now. And the reason being is because for the first time, there is going to be a stronger influence of femininity in the earth than ever before. Think about it this way. The way that women, white women got the vote, it was because they did not recognize what they were doing, but they exerted the power of femininity over masculinity and brought the vote into existence for them. They did it in a political way. They did it in a physical way because nobody wanted to talk about it. But not only did they talk about not cooking, they said, when they did this, they said, do not have sex with your man. Nobody want to talk about that. But that was a large part of how the vote came into existence for the white women. Now, here we are in an era where the African spirituality, the spirit of Akabalon, the essence of Akabalon is feminine. And that essence of Akabalon is influencing that womb that is no longer looking at it from the political state, even though it doesn't understand that. The submissiveness of it will be guided by the African femininity, the energy of Akabalon. And that is what will bring balance to the earth. Does that make sense? I know I've said a lot. I know we've said a lot. But does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Can I add a little something there? I remember reading about the suffrage movement, and I can't remember the name of the women, but there were actually quite a few African women involved with Susan, whatever her name is.
Anthony.
The African women were involved with that movement, that suffrage movement. Susan B. Anthony, yeah. Anyway, but there was a really prominent African woman who was involved with it, and I can't remember her name right off the bat because she's not really in any history books or anything, but it was through her energy and effort that helped carry that that amendment into fruition. But she left that movement because she realized that the white women were not really interested in her rights as a U.S. citizen. They just wanted the right to vote, but they didn't really care about the African women, what was going on with them, and the fact that the African women wanted it to be more of a movement for freedom for all women, but the white women weren't really interested in that. They just wanted the vote.
So the white women were interested in a moment, and the African women were interested in the movement. And now here we are in the midst of a movement, not a moment. And that in itself is the difference in all of this. And I hope by the discussion we just had, Ron, that it actually covered the questions that you were raising.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble with my machine here. Yes, it does. I'm still mulling it over as well. We're in the midst of something, and I want to be able to see it clearly. What's not only what's taking place and what we're seeing, but what we're feeling, what we're experiencing.
May I offer something, Ron?
Yeah, the roles that we're playing and the oneness of the feminine masculine energy in the earth, what that's supposed to look like, what it really looks like, and the power that it has when it works together. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't think we are going to be able to explain it to the point where we can see what it looks like until after it's done. I think it's going to be more like the timeline that Barbara brought yesterday. We see it retrospectively. I don't want us to see it. I really don't, because I don't want us to taint it with our academic thoughts, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And not only our academic thoughts, I also don't want us to taint it with our religious thoughts either. Regardless of how far we think we are from religion, it's still there, and we have to be aware of that. So I would much rather see it retrospectively or see it as we experience it, rather than making an effort to see it before it happens, if that makes sense. Just embrace the reality that it's already happened, and we just haven't seen it with our eyes yet.
I think it is not a coincidence at all. I was speaking with my masseuse yesterday, and we were talking, and she's Caucasian. And I mentioned that to tell the story, that one of the things that she's been sort of talking about here lately was the misinformation of the scriptures, how they're written and how confusing they are, and something must be missing from them. And then ironically, last night, a friend of mine from Aiken called me, who's a minister, called about the same thing, the confusion about the creation story, and to ask questions and to look at things. And I don't think any of that stuff is coincidence. Something very strong going on in the earth right now. And
Well, I think it was a message more than a question. And I think maybe it was a message, just like the message of the timeline was yesterday.
okay.
Maybe the question that was raised about the confusion in the creation story was a message saying to us, stay the course.
Yeah.
See, let's be honest. Beg your pardon?
Go ahead, Pastor.
No, go ahead, Rainy.
No, this is Barbara.
Oh, Barbara. Okay.
I wanted you to finish your thought.
Oh, okay. And let's be honest with ourselves. And that I'm saying that there are those who are still struggling with what we are talking about when we say that the scriptures were not only manipulated, but for 1,000 years, it took them to write the Bible because they were writing a story that was going to put males in charge, and white men in particular. Let's be honest. There are still struggles with that. And you will struggle with that until you're honest with yourself and have a deep desire to embrace the truth no matter what it costs, in terms of you're being purged of what you have believed for all of these years. Thank you. Great, Bob.
Yeah, I wanted to just add to what you and Ron were talking about. There are some things that you said that some things have to be experienced. And I believe that we're at the point where we will understand better by experience, because you're right. When we try to understand through intellect or through religion, we put boundaries around it, and we're beyond boundaries now. And so I don't understand everything that we've talked about this morning. The issue is I don't have to understand. I have to just trust. And when I trust that, it resonates. And as it resonates, there are going to be things that manifest that show me the experience of what that understanding would have been, which is a deeper, more intuitive knowing than me trying to do it intellectually or through religion. And so I believe that that's where we're at point now. So when we don't really understand it, just be open to the experience, and you'll see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Hey, Pastor, I have a comment, and there's two of them. When Ron was talking about the consciousness of the land,
Mm-hmm.
the land mass,
Mm-hmm.
and my question is, when all the land mass was all together, a man could walk it, and why did the countries break off from Africa, like United States and all of that there on one side and the other countries on another side? I might be saying it, telling it wrong, but what happened to the country when it broke off like that?
We talked about it a bit earlier, that is indicative of the fragmented thought or consciousness in the land, meaning that different people ended up with different ways of seeing Earth consciousness or representing it. And that was necessary in order for the spiritual creator that lives in these physical bodies to have a true experience as creator in the earth, meaning that the objective of the God of this earth is to bring into existence unified thought, unified balance, so that the fragmented thoughts that create disorder in the earth can be dispensed with, or at the very least are redeemed, so that they will not be destructive to the earth or to humanity anymore. So
Okay.
that's necessary. That was necessary. Also, I think that those of us on this phone need to do some other things too, and begin to look at, get your globe and look at the structure of the land masses, and you will see how many lies have been told about the different continents of the earth and how far Europe is from the quote unquote Asian countries, and the lie about the Middle East, Northern Africa being renamed the Middle East, and all of these landmass structures will speak volumes to you if you study them closely. You will see the depth of lies that we have been taught from our geography as well as our history. This is what I'm saying to you in essence. Whether it is history, religion, geography, anthropology, geology, it doesn't matter what theologies are. Every one of them have been taught to us it's a lie. And
Okay.
the lies have always benefited Europeans. And the biggest
Gotcha.
lie that we're going into is Europe as a continent. That's the biggest lie.
Good afternoon, Pastor.
Sir,
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. This is George in Philly. As you were speaking about the scriptures and looking at in terms of everything that was given to us was a lie. But I think that if we go back and we can look at, what was written or what was documented in terms of us being able to appreciate the origin of it all. And you spoke about it, in the past in terms of the Shabaka stone. And so when we talk about the stolen legacy, or we look at the Memphite theology in reference to the Shabaka stone being that document that basically have the truths which regards to the origin of the African theory, in terms of, again, the theory, that was really helpful in terms of what we're speaking about now, in terms of what was the aspect of the Shabaka stone and how it's related to the scriptures of our history. So I wanted to mention that thought because, again, I'm just trying to look at what can we, meditate on with regards to just knowing that it's all manifesting, but just to have something that we can, again, not just look at, but we've talked about it. And so I think the manifestation of it is before us now. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in terms of just that, that document or that stone being something that is available to us. I'm done.
thank you. For those of us who don't know, there is a book out there called The Shabaka Stone. I know it's available on Amazon. Now, it's not an easy read for some people. And if you note, we don't often tell you about books because there are so many things in them that could confuse you. Periodically, it happens. We will do that. And it's not because we're trying to hide something from you. It's because we're trying to minimize the confusion that's out there. Because like I said, we have purchased books and we've only gotten a paragraph from them. And we don't want you upset because you spent your money for a paragraph or less. So.
Real. My other question is, when Ron was talking about the ants, it brought memories of the queen.
Yeah.
And if the ants got it right, why can't we get it right? Because the ants seem like.
I'm sorry, Sean. I thought that was your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay. Because we're arrogant. Because we have been indoctrinated with male domination. I think what Ron was getting at, and Ron, you tell me whether I'm right or not, this is what I heard when you raised that question about the ants, is that we are becoming feminine. That means that we are becoming more creative. We're birthing things in the earth, and the timelines or the statements that maybe Audrey or Kathy or Barbara or whomever makes or question ever raises or whatever. All of these this is feminine energy guiding us along this journey of recognizing the wombs that we are or have the propensity to be for the purpose of aiding and bring it into existence a life that's beneficial to the earth in its entirety. Am I on the right track with that, Ron?
Yes, sir, exactly. I think we're going through a transformation as we speak.
So, and honestly, I do believe that as Nick stated earlier, the representation of masculinity of men in the earth, I do believe that we cannot truly appreciate that until we are able to appreciate the leadership, the guidance of femininity, until we're able to truly embrace without question the essence of Kabbalah being on the throne, meaning that the essence of African femininity being on the throne, or as George sent the image of Mother Africa being on the throne. When we can truly embrace that, I think then we can appreciate our masculinity. Other than that, the thing that we call masculinity is destructive BS at best. It has no benefits at all to the preservation of life. Any questions or comments?
I certainly hope this has not been confusing, y'all. If so, please write it down. If you don't mind, write it down or send a text or something so we can.
Or just say you're confused, huh? They say, I don't understand, whatever section is you don't understand, Either one. And as Barbara said, if it resonates, that's one thing,
Yeah, yeah.
Does anyone know the date that the females, both European and African, are supposed to come together on Zoom? Okay, if you don't, then if you find out, please let me know. In the meantime, I'll be looking for it as well. I'm done.
Thank you, guys. If there are any more, Audrey, were you saying something?
I have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm just, when George mentioned this Shabaka stone, and I was thinking, and you talked earlier about Amun-Ra. What's Amun-Ra and what's Ptah? Can you give me some enlightenment on that?
Amun-Ra, the Amun was considered the spiritual guide or God the spiritual guide rather in southern, in Upper Egypt, which is southern Egypt, and Ra was in Lower Egypt. And what happened is the priesthood came together, and when they came together, they Amun-Ra became one. Amun meaning that they believed the same things, but they were in different areas of Kemet. And being in those different areas, they assigned, for lack of a better term, a character or name to that spiritual entity that brought into existence Osiris and Isis. And one was Amun and one was Ra. So when they came together, it became Amun-Ra, the entity of the spirit that brought that into existence. And that's where we get the word man from also, amen. That word should not be used the way it's being used in Christianity. But that's the gist of it. If anyone else can explain it clearer, please do so, because I'm sure that there are others on this line who have looked at Amun-Ra.
I do think it
Then-
would be,
And then what is the entity Ptah?
Oh, Ptah is the entity of the interest of spirituality. It's called the pillar of spirituality in Upper Egypt. I'm sorry, in Lower Egypt. The heel of Ptah was the entrance or the undergirding force through which creation came into existence. And the symbol of that was constructed when I think it was Menes was the pharaoh at that time who did who redirected the Nile River and left in its wake a heel that he called the heel of Ptah, which represented the pillar of creation in Egypt.
So how does Amun-Ra and Ptah relate to each other?
Amun-Ra would be the beings that brought everything into existence, but the undergirding force out of which all of it came is Ptah. Meaning that the waters of noon came from Ptah, but at the behest of Amun-Ra.
Okay, so Ptah would be
The spirit that
related
creates.
to like spirit?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
spirit.
Okay, I got it.
And anyone else who sees this?
so Ptah would be equivalent to Elohim.
Yes. Yes and no. Elohim is confusing now. And the reason Elohim is confusing is because it's used differently than it should have been used. Elohim was brought into existence because of the Semitic word for God or for a superior being. And when Elohim was brought into existence as that, what they did not recognize is that Elohim was not masculine. They did not recognize that Elohim was not a singular God. That Elohim was plural. They did not recognize that.
Okay.
So if you look at the language, whether it be Hebrew or Aramaic that they used, you will see that there were a lot of mistakes made there because they didn't understand how to translate them. So keep in mind that the Aramaic version of a New Testament or the Hebraic version of an Old Testament is very new in terms of its existence when you relate it to the sacred writings of Kemet. And I really would, if we're going to talk about this, I would really want us to wait until we can just talk about it and it only, as opposed to on the heels of what we discussed, because I want to make every effort, and I'm sure you do too, to minimize any confusion that could be brought from this.
Yes. Well,
Patrick,
okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
to answer your question, there's a unity call among all of those identity groups scheduled for today, Sunday evening, to align messaging and fundraising ideas. So I don't know if that's the actual putting together of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, but there's a unity call among, and I don't know if it's individuals from each of those specific groups or not. But anyway, there's something that's going to happen this evening.
Okay, I just want to make sure that my focus and meditation is in that direction. There is also a prayer visual thing this evening. Also being, there's a number that was sent out. It's a nationwide call in for the same thing, but it's not fundraising. This is a prayer thing. But I thank you, Bob, for that information. And I solicit all of you to, if you will, shift your focus to that. And let me tell you why. If this is to be what it's supposed to be, meaning that, let me put it in human terms. If Kamala Harris is to be successful in this run for president, if Kamala Harris is to be successful in bringing unification to humanity and healing the earth, then it's only going to happen because of our guidance. We cannot get to the place where the election takes place, or we into this thing politically and not understand that we are where we are because of our desires. The timeline showed us how we have traveled this journey to get to where we are. So now that I've said it to you in human terms, let me say it to you in spiritual terms. There has to be a spiritual force that guides the journey that humanity has embarked on as of now. This journey is guided by the desires and energies that has brought it into existence. For example, if we were to back away from everything and make a decision, we going back into the church like we were, then everything that's been set in motion would crash and burn, and we would be in worse shape than ever before. So we must keep up the vigilance. We must keep up we must stay on the journey to bring into existence the life legacy of a cable line for the benefit of humanity. It is on our shoulders. And I repeat, as we said in 2011, it will not crash and burn on our watch. On our watch, humanity will be delivered.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thanks, guys. Everybody,
Thank you.
have a great day.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.